Me, I'm a busy person, that's why I cannot get into poultry. I have no time, there are feeders and drinkers, even structures that are automatic. Hello, that biotech guy here again. If it's your first time on this channel, I'd like to welcome you, and this is a platform where we discuss the different things to successfully get into poultry business. The beginners, the middle income earners, and the large farms. This is our place where we all come together to share ideas about what we know, what we've experienced, and what we think. Ask questions and get answers. If it's not your first time here, welcome back, and in this video we shall continue with what we had spoken partially about in the previous. Before we get into the details, there are different factors to consider if you want to put up a farm. Let's talk about the structure. One of them is the size of the birds. It's useless to construct a structure for 1,000 birds when you're going to bring in like 300 birds. That is poor planning. Maybe we could say that you're looking at expansion, but things like the heat would cause problems. Secondly is the ventilation. If there's poor ventilation, the ammonia is going to pile up in the farm and it's going to smell. This is where flies are going to be in your farm. Even you yourself, you'll not want to cross there. Another one is the issue of security. Now, the security is not only theft, there is also biosecurity, prevention of infectious diseases, maybe like the microorganisms from outside the farm into the farm. There's also the predator blockage. That's still part of security. You might have a farm, remember, these are chicken. Things like snakes can come into your farm. So you need to plan all these things. Another is the cleaning. Like, you need to choose something that is easier for you to clean. Now, you should stick to the end when we are going to give some plans about like how the measurements and the height, the width, the size of the mesh, pictures and information about that. But in the end, how you could construct your poultry farm. There are different types of coops, depending on what you prefer, and then how big your farm is. Now, the litter bed is where people are using like coffee husks, sawdust, where you have like a room and then on the floor you put the husks and then the chicken settle there. There is a lot more space and they are allowed to move freely within the chicken house. So that one, I'm assuming, is very common and it's what most people are currently using, and it has been there for a long time. So this one is easier to clean. After the chicken move out, you could just take out all the sawdust, and then the droppings are mixed within that sawdust and it's easier to clean. But with advancement, people have come with ways how they can use small spaces in better ways. Now, if you had a farm where you could keep 500 birds and then you put the birds into cages, that means you could expand upwards if they were in cages. One cage can be above the other, can be above the other, something like that. Now, the cage system is also becoming popular recently. Before I forget, if you want an in-depth description of maybe like the advantages and disadvantages of any of the types, you could leave it in the comment section to make for you a detailed description and give you more information about the type of maybe structure or any other thing I'm going to discuss today that you would want. I will also attach the pricings, especially for the feeders and drinkers, because the structures, it kind of varies. So I was talking about the cage system. These birds are put in cages, but remember now the birds require a minimum space. So there are cages of specific sizes where they'll tell you this cage can hold like 50 birds, this one can hold like 120 birds, this one can hold 500 birds. Then there are people who like have these mobile coops. A mobile coop is like, for instance, if you're feeding your birds on like grass and you keep shifting them, the house itself is movable. You could move it from one spot to the other, one spot to the other. Now, that is common if you just want a few birds that you could use, maybe public holidays, when family, during holidays. It's not a must that you must have one of these, because remember, you build it according to your need. So this is kind of like a mixture of the cage and the deep litter system. But instead of buying the cages, people have come up with ways whereby you construct your own farm upwards. This is good for like urban farmers, people that have small space. Just like you're seeing in the picture, there's a lower level and an upper level. Now, this structure is common and it's like one of the things we have here, but we have the older version whereby we put deep litter system within the cage. So we had to carry out the litter every time. But now with advancement, the droppings go through and pour on the roof of the lower level. So now you can only come and sweep the lower level for maybe like once every day to keep the place clean and prevent flies from coming in. This is very advisable for people that have like very small time. Even when you look at the in front part, there is a feeder where you directly pour food and then you close, so the birds can keep having food. The house is like auto clean. So this is, I would encourage anyone with small space to start with this. Next, we go to the feeders. Now, feeders are also of types. There are majorly two types. There's the open trough feeder. That is the wooden thing you see most people having on the farms, the birds. So there are also automated feeders, whereby as the birds eat, the feeds keep pouring out. The automated feeders are of different types. There could be like the real market automated feeder. Also, people have become creative and found ways of making their own automated feeders. I've watched where people have cut buckets and then kind of put a jerry can. They then cut the lower base. As it pours, the gravity stops it from pouring out since it's a little full, but as the bird pecks and reduces the feed inside, the feed pours out to cover that space. Kind of like the automated feeders have been made DIY. That's if you have like a small farm. You really don't need to spend that money getting automated feeders. You spend that money expanding your farm. I've seen most of the people lately hang their feeders high. This is good because even rats feed on this chicken feed. That mokeni has a very strong scent and it attracts these rats. This automated feeder is kind of better than the open trough feeder. Automatic feeders prevent that wastage, because you might find like the bird has to fix its head to pick food. It's not a must that you must have a feeder. You could get like maybe a bucket cover and then you put the feed and then you leave the birds to feed from it, as long as they can get the feed. So the drinkers are also there. These common drinkers like this one, whereby you open and then pour the water, you close. When you turn, the water also flows up, flows out depending on gravity. Then you could also use like a container. For instance, here we have one bird, but then we used a container instead. The drinker is here, but we prefer to use a container for this one, and it has been a while using this container. Now we also have automatic drinkers, for instance like this, for like the big farms. It could be just like a tank where the water is put and pipes to the farm. But now on the pipes, how does the bird get the water? It has constant automatic water supply. Now the drinking part, there are different types of drinkers. There are nipple drinkers, there are cup drinkers, there are nipple cup drinkers. Now the nipple drinkers, there are things like nipples that form drops of water. So the bird pecks that drop and it swallows. So every time it pecks, another drop forms. It pecks like that. That is how the birds drink the water. In a cup drinker, the water flowing fills a cup, and if the cup is full, the weight of the cup closes the valve and prevents more water from coming. As the bird pecks and drinks the water, the cup becomes lighter. So that spring pulls up the cup and more water flows in. When more water flows in and it's full, the weight goes back and it closes the valve again. So that one also provides constant supply. Now there are drinkers that are a mixture of both the nipple and the cup drinker. The birds can either peck or they drink from the cup. And even from the drinking and the feeding, you have to notice which one your birds prefer, like the feeding habits of the birds. You might find like you put like a nipple cup drinker and all birds are drinking from the cup and not pecking the nipples.